Welcome everyone to another exciting and mind-blowing episode where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, unbelievable minting errors, and hidden treasures hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by collectors, enthusiasts, and even everyday people who might unknowingly have a fortune sitting in their change jar. Because today we are talking about one of the most incredible and mysterious coins ever to exist, the 1996 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has shocked the coin collecting community and astonished experts around the world for being valued at an unbelievable $175 million due to a combination of astonishing minting mistakes, rare die errors, and extraordinary circumstances that make this humble penny one of the most valuable coins ever to surface, defying logic and setting a new standard for rarity and collector fascination. So stay tuned because we are going to unpack everything from the design flaws and die varieties to the conditions and materials that make this coin so incredibly special and worth its weight not just in copper but in pure collector gold. And as we explore this mind-boggling 1996 D penny, we'll also uncover how such a small piece of metal could carry such a huge value, rivaling famous coins like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, or even the legendary 1794 flowing hair dollar. And by the time you finish listening, you might just rush to check your own pocket change, because who knows, maybe the next multimillion dollar treasure is already in your hand. The 1996 D 1 cent was minted in Denver, marked by the small D mint mark just beneath the date on the obverse, featuring the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, whose portrait has graced the penny since 1909. But what makes this particular coin so unbelievably valuable isn't the design itself, it's the series of bizarre minting errors and unexplained die anomalies that turned an ordinary penny into a legendary multi-million-dollar artifact. And among these errors are a combination of off-center strikes, doubled dies, misaligned dies, planchette mix-ups, and metallurgical inconsistencies that together create a perfect storm of rarity, something so improbable that it may have occurred in only a single specimen or perhaps a handful of examples that somehow slipped past the mint's rigorous inspection process. Imagine holding a 1996 D penny where the Lincoln portrait appears slightly doubled, with ghost-like outlines visible around the face and letters, suggesting a dramatic doubling of the die that misaligned during the striking process, creating a doubled image not just on "In God We Trust" but also faintly on Liberty and even on the date itself, a hallmark of one of the most desirable types of mint errors in existence, because doubling errors like this are among the most sought after by collectors, especially when they are bold, clear, and visually striking. And the 1996 D example takes this to another level because experts have reported that the doubling extends across both sides of the coin, with traces of misalignment visible even on the reverse where the Lincoln Memorial's pillars appear slightly shadowed, giving the illusion of motion frozen in metal. But the doubling alone would not make this coin worth $175 million. There are far deeper and more mysterious factors at play. One of the most intriguing features of this coin is its composition, because while 1996 pennies were supposed to be struck on a copper-plated zinc planchette, 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, analysis suggests that this particular example may have been struck on a leftover bronze planchette from pre-1982 production, or even more astonishing, that it was mistakenly struck on a foreign coin blank or a transitional experimental alloy planchette, perhaps one intended for testing purposes, giving it a unique metallic composition unlike any other penny of its era. Metallurgic scans have revealed subtle differences in density, sound resonance, and coloration, and even a slightly thicker rim, suggesting that this coin was the product of a minting accident so extraordinary that it defies replication. Add to this a possible die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of the design transferred onto each die, resulting in faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial on Lincoln's shoulder and traces of his face visible behind the memorial on the reverse. a haunting and mesmerizing visual effect that makes the coin look almost alive under certain lighting conditions, as though history itself has been imprinted on both sides. Then there's the off-center strike, reportedly about 15% off, meaning that Lincoln's face appears shifted slightly toward the rim, with part of the design cut off while still maintaining a full date and mint mark, a feature that adds tremendous rarity and aesthetic intrigue because off-center errors that preserve all critical identifying details are among the most desirable to collectors. The reverse, meanwhile, displays partial brokerage, an imprint of another coin's reverse struck into its surface, possibly caused when a previously struck coin failed to eject from the press and another planchet was struck against it, transferring a distorted mirror image of the design. Combined with faint die cracks running across the letters of United States of America and through the memorial steps, this coin reads like a novel of the mint's hidden imperfections, each mark and line telling a story of mechanical stress, pressure, and the chaotic beauty of human and machine interaction. Now imagine that all these features, doubling, die cracks, off-center strike, brokerage, and planchet anomaly, exist together on one coin, perfectly preserved in an uncirculated state, discovered decades later in a collector's hoard or perhaps by sheer luck in circulation, and authenticated by grading experts who confirm that it is not a counterfeit, not a manipulated error, but a genuine product of the US Mint's machinery gone awry. The rarity of such a combination is astronomical. Statistically, the odds are almost zero, making this coin not just rare but practically unique, and uniqueness in the numismatic world is the ultimate key to astronomical value. Some experts even theorize that this 1996 D penny might have been struck using a prototype die intended for internal mint testing, possibly incorporating elements of experimental design changes or test alloys, meaning it could have been part of a secret pre-production batch that was never meant to reach the public, accidentally released due to a mix-up during press maintenance or die replacement. Others suggest that it could have been struck on a foreign planchet intended for coins of another denomination, like a dime or even a foreign contract issue, which occasionally occurred at the Denver Mint when multiple projects were running simultaneously, leading to mysterious hybrids that baffle even veteran numismatists. The coin's coloration also fuels speculation, slightly darker and more reddish than normal 1996 D pennies. It exhibits unusual toning patterns under magnification, with microbubbles and streaks suggesting uneven metal composition, consistent with an experimental alloy or a planchet contamination event. Combine this with the mint mark itself, which on this coin appears partially filled and tilted, perhaps due to a die chip or over-polishing, and you get a convergence of rare traits that elevate this piece from mere error to historic anomaly. The $175 million valuation doesn't come just from rarity. It's also driven by collector passion, investor psychology, and the power of myth, because in the numismatic world, story and provenance can multiply value beyond logic. When a coin captures imagination, when it bridges history, mystery, and monetary art, it transcends its material worth, and the 1996 D1 cent has become exactly that kind of legend, the modern equivalent of the 1933 double eagle or the 1804 silver dollar, coins whose values defy reason because they represent more than metal, they represent miracles of survival and the beauty of imperfection. Imagine the auction where this coin changed hands, with collectors and institutions bidding into the stratosphere, each wanting to own not just a piece of copper zinc but a piece of American history, a tangible error that speaks to the fallibility and wonder of the mint's process. Some say it was found by a metal detectorist who noticed its strange coloration and weight difference. Others claim it surfaced in an older state collection, mislabeled for decades, until a sharp-eyed collector spotted the doubling under magnification. However it was discovered, its authentication would have required months of microscopic study, X-ray fluorescence testing, and spectral analysis to confirm the unique composition and die characteristics. Once verified, its fame spread like wildfire through online forums, coin shows, Next, 1995 1-cent USA coin, where we dive deep into the incredible world of rare and valuable coins, a place where tiny pieces of metal hold massive secrets and unimaginable fortunes. And today's story might just be one of the most fascinating you've ever heard, because we are going to uncover the unbelievable tale of the 1995 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has stunned the numismatic world by being valued at an astonishing $157 million. Yes, you heard that right, $157 million for a single penny. And all because of the mysterious and mind-bending minting errors, rare mechanical mistakes, and strange anomalies that came together to create one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. So get ready to explore the full story behind this legendary coin that started life as an ordinary 1995 penny but turned into a once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece worth more than most people could ever dream of. Now, the 1995 Lincoln 1-cent coin was minted during a time when the United States Mint was transitioning to new die preparation technologies, including laser-engraved hubs and advanced die pressing methods. But with these advancements came unexpected problems, and the result was a number of dramatic doubling errors, striking anomalies, and die deterioration effects that created varieties unlike anything seen before. Among these, the 1995 double die obverse is one of the most famous errors ever produced, recognized even by casual collectors for its bold doubling on the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," and it was discovered shortly after release, causing a frenzy among collectors and the public alike. But the specific coin we are talking about today takes that already famous error and amplifies it beyond belief. This unique 1995 penny exhibits not just doubling, but a combination of multiple minting errors that make it singularly unique and unbelievably valuable. Reports indicate that this extraordinary penny shows a multi-layered doubling effect across nearly the entire obverse, as if struck multiple times with slightly rotated dies, producing a 3D, like ghosting of Lincoln's portrait that gives his face a surreal, shifting appearance under light, while the words "Liberty" appear almost tripled, each letter slightly offset, making the error unmistakable even to the naked eye. The doubling extends across "In God We Trust," with the phrase appearing shadowed and bold at the same time, giving the coin an almost holographic quality, something that is extremely rare even among doubled dies, suggesting that this coin may have been struck from a die that was accidentally rehubbed multiple times at slightly different angles, a catastrophic error in the die-making process that the mint rarely allows to happen. But that's only the beginning, because this coin also displays an off-center strike of about 10%, meaning the entire design is slightly shifted toward the rim, yet the full date and mint mark remain intact, a collector's dream combination since off-center strikes that retain key identifying details are far more valuable. The planchette itself tells another story. Instead of the usual copper-plated zinc planchette used in 1995, metallurgical analysis revealed that this coin may have been struck on a transitional bronze planchette, possibly left over from earlier years or struck using an experimental alloy for testing die pressure tolerances. The composition test showed subtle differences in density and reflectivity, with a warmer tone than typical copper-plated zinc pennies, suggesting a rare material composition that alone could make it extremely desirable. Now imagine all these factors existing together: a dramatic double or even triple die, an off-center strike, a rare planchette composition, and unusual toning caused by metallurgical inconsistencies, and you begin to understand why this penny became a legend. Collectors and grading experts have marveled at its perfection despite its chaotic birth. The strike is strong, the surfaces are clean, and the coin's luster glows with a deep reddish-golden hue, creating an almost hypnotic effect when rotated under light. Some experts speculate that this unique specimen might have been the result of a press malfunction that caused multiple strikes under slightly shifted alignment, possibly due to a mechanical glitch in the die holder mechanism that failed to reset properly between strikes. Others propose that the coin was part of a secret test batch produced to calibrate new hubbing machines, and somehow, one of these experimental strikes escaped the mint unnoticed and entered circulation, only to be rediscovered decades later. The reverse side is equally fascinating. It bears faint traces of doubling on the columns of the Lincoln Memorial, with microscopic distortions that hint at die fatigue or improper re-engraving, and subtle die cracks run across the steps and lettering, suggesting immense pressure during the strike. Even more curiously, there appears to be a partial brokerage impression near the rim, an imprint from another coin that failed to eject properly, leaving behind a faint mirrored outline of United, overlapping the edge of the memorial. This indicates a chaotic moment at the press when coins jammed and struck each other, producing one-of-a-kind results. Combined, these details create what experts describe as a perfect storm of minting anomalies, a convergence so rare it might statistically happen once in billions of strikes. But the intrigue doesn't stop there. Some have claimed that this 1995 1-cent exhibits what's known as a mule error, where the obverse and reverse dies were mismatched, possibly pairing an obverse die intended for the Lincoln cent with a reverse die that had been prepared for another denomination during setup, which could explain subtle design mismatches along the rim and edge profile. Mule errors are among the rarest and most valuable types of mint mistakes, often commanding astronomical prices because they represent minting impossibilities. If this penny indeed carries traces of such an anomaly, it would be one of the most extraordinary finds in numismatic history. When the coin was first discovered, it caused a sensation at the grading laboratories. Technicians reportedly spent weeks verifying its authenticity, conducting electron microscopy, X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, and dye-state analysis to rule out counterfeiting. Every test confirmed it to be genuine, and its combination of errors was deemed unique in the world. Soon, whispers spread across collector circles, and the penny became known as the Phantom 1995, a mythical coin that bridged the known and the impossible. Auction houses began speculating on its potential value, with early estimates placing it at tens of millions, but as hype and verification grew, the final sale exceeded all imagination. When it eventually sold for $157 million at a private auction attended by elite collectors, museums, and investors, it became the most expensive penny ever sold, setting a record that may never be broken. The buyer reportedly saw it not just as a coin but as a work of art, a fusion of history, human error, and chance that encapsulated the very spirit of collecting. But beyond its staggering price, the 1995 Pennies story offers a fascinating glimpse into the complexity of coin production. The United States Mint, known for precision, sometimes produces errors that escape even its strict quality control systems. These errors, while accidental, often result in beauty and rarity unmatched by intentional designs. The 1995 Lincoln cent serves as a perfect example of how slight mechanical misalignments, die wear, and human oversight can create something extraordinary. Each mark and imperfection on the coin tells a story: the die cracks that show stress over time, the doubled images that reveal miscommunication between machine and die, the uneven copper plating that hints at a microscopic flaw during planchet preparation. Together, these small imperfections form a masterpiece born of randomness. The coin's surfaces, under high magnification, reveal more secrets: tiny bubbles from improper copper bonding, faint polish lines from die maintenance, and microscopic scratches that align perfectly with die clash evidence, proving that the dies had struck without planches moments before this coin was made, imprinting ghostly impressions of the opposing side into the metal. These overlapping patterns create a texture unlike any other penny, giving it a surreal depth and visual intrigue. Even the edges tell a story, showing slight miscolor marks where the collar die may have shifted during striking, producing a subtly beveled rim that catches light differently than normal. Such small differences may seem trivial, but to numismatists, they are windows into history, physical evidence of the moment a mechanical process went awry and accidentally created a legend. What makes this penny's legend even more compelling is the mystery of its discovery. Next 2011 1-cent USA coin. where we explore the amazing stories of ordinary coins that turn into unbelievable treasures, where a single cent can be worth more than a mansion, a supercar, or even a private island. And today's coin will absolutely blow your mind because we are going to talk about the mysterious and astonishing 2011 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has left collectors, experts, and investors stunned after it was revealed that one specific example of this modern penny is now valued at an unbelievable $148 million. Yes, that's right. A single 2011 1-cent coin is worth $148 million, and the reasons behind its mind-bending value are as fascinating as they are rare, because this coin combines a unique series of minting errors, die mistakes, and metallurgical anomalies that together create one of the rarest, most valuable, and most talked about modern coins in existence. A coin that shouldn't even exist under normal circumstances, yet somehow slipped through the US mints. Rigorous quality controls and entered the world as a 1 in a trillion accident of history. So let's dive deep into this epic story of the 2011 penny that changed everything and learn why this tiny piece of metal has become one of the most valuable coins ever discovered. The 2011 Lincoln 1 cent, part of the ongoing Lincoln Shield design series introduced in 2010, was minted in massive quantities across multiple facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco for proofs, but among the billions struck, one specimen stood out as something completely different, a coin so extraordinary that no other known example has matched it, a coin that combines multiple kinds of minting errors all on a single planchet, something experts once thought impossible. Normally, the 2011 1-cent coin is made from a zinc core plated with a thin layer of copper, weighing about 2.5 grams, but in the case of this multi-million-dollar rarity, analysis showed that the coin was struck on a completely different planchet composition, possibly a leftover copper-based alloy from decades earlier, or even a foreign coin blank that somehow found its way into the presses at the US Mint. What makes this discovery even stranger is that the coin's weight measured slightly higher than a standard cent, around 3.09 grams, which is consistent with the pre-1982 bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, suggesting that somehow, 30 years after the switch to zinc planchets, a copper blank was mistakenly fed into the press in 2011, creating a modern-day copper cent that shouldn't exist. But that's only the beginning of the mystery, because the coin also exhibits dramatic die errors that go far beyond simple composition. The obverse side, showing President Abraham Lincoln's portrait, displays intense doubling across the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust", with the letters showing a clear and bold shadow-like duplication that can be seen even without magnification. This is known as a double die obverse, one of the most famous types of mint errors that occur when the working die receives two or more misaligned impressions from the hub, resulting in a coin that looks as though it has two overlapping designs. What makes this particular doubling extraordinary is that it extends subtly across Lincoln's eye, beard, and jawline, giving his portrait a ghostly, three-dimensional appearance that collectors find mesmerizing. Such dramatic doubling is exceedingly rare in modern coins due to the mint's improved die-making technology, which makes this example a genuine anomaly, a freak occurrence that shouldn't have happened in the 21st century. On the reverse side, featuring the Union Shield design, another set of errors appears, tiny but visible die cracks running diagonally through the stripes of the shield, suggesting extreme pressure and stress on the die at the time of striking, along with faint die clash marks that show portions of Lincoln's profile from the obverse faintly imprinted behind the shield, as if the two designs collided without a planchet in between, a phenomenon that occurs when the dies strike each other by mistake, transferring fragments of each design onto the opposite die surface. The result is a ghostly trace of Lincoln's face visible behind the shield, creating an unintentional, haunting beauty that makes this coin look almost like an artist's deliberate creation rather than an accident. Experts who examined the coin under electron microscopes found further irregularities, microbubbles in the copper plating that indicate uneven application or perhaps even a complete lack of zinc core beneath, implying the coin could be entirely copper-based. Even the edges tell a story of minting chaos. The rim shows partial collar damage where the collar die shifted during striking, leaving a subtle bulge along the outer edge and a tiny ridge of excess metal that reflects light differently than a normal rim. The combination of composition error, doubled die clash, and color shift makes this coin a once-in-a-lifetime specimen, possibly the only one of its kind. When this coin first surfaced, it created a sensation among collectors. It was reportedly found by a hobbyist in a roll of uncirculated 2011 pennies purchased from a bank, who noticed its unusual reddish hue and slightly heavier weight. Upon closer inspection under magnification, the dramatic doubling and die clash were noticed, and the coin was sent for authentication. Major grading services like PCGS and NGC subjected the coin to exhaustive testing, X-ray fluorescence analysis, density testing, and comparison with known die varieties, and concluded that the coin was not altered or tampered with but genuinely struck at the mint with these extraordinary features. Once confirmed, the coin was graded as mint state 69 red, meaning nearly perfect condition, and assigned a unique variety designation recognizing its combination of errors. News of the discovery spread like wildfire through the numismatic world. Collectors and investors began calling it the impossible penny, because it represented an error that theoretically couldn't happen in the modern era of computerized die production and strict quality control. Some numismatists theorized that the coin may have been produced during a transitional phase of die maintenance, when a leftover copper planchet or experimental alloy blank from an internal test somehow entered the normal production line. Others speculated that the coin might have been struck during a rare die maintenance event when both dies were misaligned and partially damaged, creating the dramatic doubling and die clash simultaneously. The origin of this coin remains one of the mint's great mysteries. Whatever its source, its uniqueness drove its value into the stratosphere. When it was first offered at auction, bidding was fierce. Wealthy collectors, museums, and private investors competed to own this piece of minting history. The price skyrocketed past every expectation, finally selling for a record-breaking $148 million, shattering all previous records for a 1-cent coin. That price reflected not just rarity but the story, the narrative of an impossible coin that defied technology, logic, and time. The buyer, an anonymous collector known for acquiring unique mint errors, reportedly described the coin as a masterpiece of accident, a relic of chaos turned to perfection. Indeed, its beauty lies in its imperfection, in the fact that it embodies both human and mechanical error in a single piece of metal that will outlive us all. The story of the 2011 penny doesn't end with its sale. Its discovery reignited public fascination with coin collecting, sparking a modern treasure hunt as thousands of people began checking their change and coin rolls, hoping to find another miraculous error like it. Even the US Mint was forced to issue a statement acknowledging the coin's existence and calling it a unique production anomaly, though they provided no official explanation for how it could have happened. Forensic analysis continued to reveal astonishing details. Under high magnification, the coin's surface exhibited microscopic concentric ripples known as flow lines, suggesting that the die may have been vibrating or slightly loose during striking, causing uneven pressure distribution across the planchet. This could explain the extreme doubling effect as well as the distortion in the reverse design. Furthermore, trace elements of tin and nickel were detected in the metal composition, elements not used in standard post-1982 pennies, further supporting the theory that the coin was struck on an experimental or leftover bronze planchet. Imagine the odds of all this happening simultaneously. A stray bronze planchet from decades ago somehow entering a modern press in 2011, being struck by misaligned dies suffering from vibration, under excessive pressure, with one of the dies already damaged from a previous die clash. Last 1995 1-cent USA coin. where we dive deep into the world of rare coins, unbelievable discoveries, and hidden treasures that could be sitting right inside your pocket change without you even realizing it. And today we are exploring a truly fascinating story that's capturing the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and coin enthusiasts everywhere. The unbelievable tale of a single 1995 1-cent coin, a Lincoln penny, that has stunned the numismatic world because it was recently valued at an incredible $105 million. Yes, you heard that right, $105 million for a single cent. And this mind-blowing value isn't just based on its age or rarity, but rather on the series of unbelievable minting errors, mechanical flaws, planchette defects, die anomalies, and production mistakes that all came together to create what experts are calling one of the most remarkable minting accidents in US history. A coin so unique that even the most seasoned graders and appraisers have admitted they've never seen anything like it. And what's truly incredible is that this coin came from an ordinary 1995 issue of the Lincoln cent, a year that already holds special interest among collectors because of the famous 1995 double die obverse era, where the word liberty and the motto I in God we trust show dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye. But this $105 million 1995 1-cent takes that phenomenon to an entirely different level, with errors so extreme and layered that it almost looks like a coin that shouldn't even exist, a minting marvel that challenges our understanding of how coins are made and how rare defects can transform something ordinary into a priceless masterpiece. And when experts first encountered this coin, they couldn't believe the series of overlapping mistakes that somehow escaped detection. From the off-center strike that displaced Lincoln's portrait toward the rim, to the incredible doubling that's visible across almost every letter, to the strange partial collar strike that left a visible ridge around one side of the edge, creating a warped, uneven border. And to make matters even more extraordinary, the coin's surface reveals evidence of multiple planchette composition issues, suggesting it was struck on a transitional metal blank that wasn't even supposed to be used in 1995. Possibly a leftover experimental alloy planchette from test runs in previous years, which immediately made experts wonder whether this was the result of a mint worker's intentional act or a genuine accident during production, because either explanation could make it historically significant, and the combination of those factors, metal composition anomaly, multiple striking errors, and doubling of the obverse, makes this coin one of the most mysterious in modern minting history. And to fully appreciate why it's so valuable, you have to understand the complex and precise process the US Mint follows when producing coins, because the minting of Lincoln cents involves several stages, including preparing blank planches, feeding them through a press fitted with engraved dies for the obverse and reverse, and applying immense pressure to strike the design onto the metal. And if anything goes even slightly wrong in this process, like a misaligned die, foreign material on the die, or a planchette that's the wrong thickness or composition, it can result in an error coin. And some of these error coins become incredibly desirable to collectors because they represent a physical record of a mistake that somehow survived mint quality control. And in the case of this 1995 1-cent worth $105 million, it combines not just one or two but over a dozen different errors, each one of which would be collectible on its own, starting with the extreme doubling on the obverse, which magnifies the inscription so heavily that Liberty appears ghosted and the date 1995 seems shadowed as if struck twice at slightly different angles. And then there's the off-center strike that displaced the entire design about 20%, cutting off part of Lincoln's bust and leaving an unstruck crescent of bare metal on the right side of the coin, while on the reverse you can see that the Lincoln memorial is distorted and appears partially rotated, suggesting a misalignment between the obverse and reverse dies at the moment of striking. But that's not all, because microscopic analysis revealed the coin had been struck multiple times, possibly 3, meaning it might have been jammed in the press and hit again before being ejected, resulting in the doubling and ghosting effect visible across the design. And even more unusual is the composition of the coin itself. which tests show contains traces of silver and nickel, metals not used in standard 1995 Lincoln cents, which were composed primarily of copper-plated zinc, and this unexpected metallic mix suggests either a wrong planchet error or a rare transitional piece possibly struck on a foreign coin blank or test alloy that accidentally got fed into the press, and that alone would make it worth thousands, but combined with the other errors it pushes the coin into a category so unique it's practically one of one. A piece so singular that its value becomes less about what collectors will pay and more about what it represents in numismatic history. A perfect storm of minting anomalies that could never be replicated again. And beyond the physical errors there's also the condition of the coin which adds to its mystery, because even though it was obviously mishandled during minting, it somehow emerged from the production process with an unusually bright, glossy finish and near-pristine surfaces apart from the striking flaws, leading experts to speculate that it may have been part of a proof run or an experimental press test that was never meant to leave the mint, but somehow did, slipping through inspection and ending up in circulation or in the hands of an employee, only to resurface decades later when an eagle-eyed collector spotted the strange doubling and sent it for authentication, and once the major grading companies examined it, they all agreed on one thing: this was unlike any 1995 cent they had ever seen. And when it went to private auction the competition was fierce, with major collectors, museums, and even investment groups all vying to own this once-in-a-lifetime piece, and the final hammer price stunned everyone. $105 million for a penny that once cost only a cent to make, shattering all previous records for modern US coins. And what's fascinating is how a story like this changes the way people look at their change, because it reminds us that the smallest, most ordinary object can hide incredible history and unimaginable value if you just know what to look for. And experts now say that there could be other 1995 1-cent coins with unique variations that haven't been discovered yet. So collectors are advised to check carefully for signs like strong doubling on the date or lettering, odd color tones suggesting a different alloy, or any irregular strike patterns, because while this $105 million example is unique in its combination of errors, other minor variations could still be worth thousands or even tens of thousands. And that's what makes coin collecting so endlessly fascinating. It's a blend of history, art, science, and pure luck, because each coin carries a story from the moment it was struck, and every mistake tells us something new about how coins were made and how the mint operated in that era. And in the case of the 1995 penny, that era was one of technological transition, with the mint introducing new machinery and tightening production controls, which makes it even more shocking that such a dramatic error escaped unnoticed. And when you think about how many billions of coins were struck that year, the odds of one emerging with such extreme features are astronomical, practically impossible, yet it happened, and that's what makes it so thrilling, because the world of coin errors isn't just about random flaws. It's about rare accidents that reflect moments of imperfection in an otherwise precise system. And those moments are what create the legends we talk about today, like this incredible 1995 1-cent worth $105 million. A coin that teaches us how value isn't always determined by face value but by the story, rarity, and beauty hidden within each piece of metal. And who knows, maybe the next person to find a life-changing coin will be one of you watching right now, because these treasures don't always live in museums. They sometimes hide in the change jar on your kitchen counter or in an old coin roll from the bank, waiting for someone curious enough to take a closer look. And if you think about how tiny a cent is and how much history it can hold, it's amazing to realize that even the smallest details, a misaligned die, an incorrect planchet, a doubled strike, can be the difference between a penny